Testing 1, 2. This is a sound test, making sure the sound is working. Sounds like it's working. Welcome everyone to another coffee tasting. I'm your host, Aaron Taylor, and today we are trying one of my favorite holiday coffees, the Christmas Blonde. This year, the Christmas Blonde features sun-dried Ethiopia, West Java, Papua New Guinea, and so these three different coffees gives us a very complex flavor of spiced orange and fig. So this is actually a very interesting coffee. When I go for coffees, I don't typically go for a bright citrusy flavor, but this one is like so smooth and so mellow with like the spice orange. The spice orange doesn't come out so intense. And then the fig is gonna be like our very mellow bitters, like a bitter fruit, because figs are very sweet. And so when we think of fig, we want to think about like the bitterness of a fig. And so for those of you who are joining me for the first time, welcome. It's an honor to have you. And for those of you who are returning, welcome back. Thank you for coming back to another coffee tasting. Your curiosity is inspiring, and I'm glad that it's all for coffee. So, with this, for those of you who are new to my channel, I like to brew my coffee three different ways. I like to do a pour over, Chemex, and French press side by side, and that way we get to fully explore the different flavor notes of the coffee through the different brew methods. And so when we brew coffee, the flavor notes are going to be dependent on the amount of sediments and oils that we get um, in our coffee after the brew is done. And so when we change up our brew method, we are changing up the amount of oils and sediments that end up in our coffee. And so by changing up the amount of oils and sediments, the oils are going to affect the bright flavor notes of the coffee, and the sediments are going to affect the bitter notes of the coffee. And so by changing the balance of the oils versus sediments is going to allow us to bring out different flavor notes. I normally typically go for like the dark chocolate bitters or like the earthy nutty notes, just because they tend to be much more smoother and they pair with other flavors a lot much better. Um, but with this coffee, we're getting spiced orange notes, and it's not too bright, not like a bright citrusy lemon coffee or like a super bright floral coffee. And so this one's actually pretty good. Previous years, the blonde, Christmas blonde, has been a little bit on like the more chocolatey side, not so bright. I think last year they did sun-dried coffee as well for the Christmas blonde, but we had different flavor notes as well. And so I actually did a coffee tasting with my coworkers earlier today, and we tried the Christmas blonde, and I brewed it iced on the Chemex. And the reason why I brewed it iced on the Chemex is to bring out some more of those orange notes. And then I also paired it with the gingerbread loaf. And with the gingerbread loaf, the gingerbread spice, it's got like that cinnamon spice in there, and with the orange spice paired together, what it really did was it really brought out the orange out of the coffee, and so it was very interesting to see how we can use something with a little bit more spice and with that icing on top to bring out some more of those orange notes out of the coffee. It was really good. It was very surprising. So there's several things that is very important when you're brewing your coffee. You want to make sure that you have your grind correct. You want to make sure that your coffee is fresh. And then also you want to make sure that your proportions are right, making sure that your grind to water ratio is right. And so with these different brew methods that we have here, we're going to be changing up the grind. So with the paper filter, we're going to be using just the standard paper filter grind. Excuse me, guys. But with the Chemex, we're going to get a little bit more of a coarser grind. And the reason why we get a more coarser grind is because the extra paper layer that is in the Chemex filter. And because there's that extra layer of paper, it's going to slow down the brew process. And so what we're going to do is we're going to slightly coarsen the grind to help the brew process stay at the same flow rate as a normal pour over, and that way we're not over extracting our Chemex. And so making sure that we get our proportion, grind, and freshness all right is very important to making sure that our coffee tastes good. And then making sure that our coffee tastes good is very essential because a lot of work goes into making a single bag of coffee. And if we brew our coffee wrong here at the table, we're doing a disservice for the people who put all that work to get that bean into a bag and able to become a cup of coffee. And so a lot of work goes into making each cup of coffee, and for us to make it wrong, it's just a disservice to the people who make our coffee, who grow our coffee. So first we're going to start off with the French press. I like to start off with the French press because we get all the sediments, all the oils, so we're going to get all the flavor. And then from there we can really go to the other coffees and kind of like compare and contrast between the others. And so with this, we're getting spiced orange notes and fig. So the spiced orange is going to be our brights, and the fig is going to be our bitters. So immediately right off the bat, I'm not getting a whole lot of that orange flavor from the French press, but I am getting a lot of that almost like subtle, like bitter fig flavor just coming off the top. That's good. So I'm getting a whole lot of that spiced orange flavor. Not like too intense, but then I'm also getting some like very subtle, bitter, fruity notes as well, and that's that big flavor. That is a really good cup of coffee, especially on the French press, because with the French press we're getting all the sediments out of our coffee, and because we're getting all the sediments, we're going to get a lot of that fig flavor, and that fig flavor is going to bring down some of that spiced orange flavor, and so we're getting a really smooth cup. I am getting some of that spiced orange flavor, but it's kind of like almost taking a back seat compared to the fig. And because the fig is the predominant flavor in the French press right now, it's actually really smooth, not nearly as bright as some of the other brew methods that I've tried. And so now we're going to go to the pour over. So from the French press to the pour over, with the pour over we're going to get more oils than sediments. And so with that, we're going to end up with a brighter cup of coffee. So immediately right off the bat, when I go to smell my coffee, I can smell the orange spice that's immediately apparent in the coffee. Oh yeah. So immediately right off the bat, we're getting like almost like a peppery orange flavor on the sides of our tongue. It has like a subtle spice to it, and then as the orange flavor washes away, we're left with that like smooth fig bitter flavor. So far out of the two brew methods, I definitely prefer the French press just because the orange notes aren't as predominant. It's not bad because spiced orange isn't as bright as some of the other bright notes that we can get in our coffee, so it's not as intense as some of the other flavors that we can get. So it's really subtle and smooth, and so I could definitely drink a pour over and enjoy it. But if I had an option between pour over and French press on this particular cup of coffee right now, I would definitely be choosing the French press just because we're getting more of those smooth, bitter fig notes. And so with this one, we're kind of going back to the French press where we're getting like not a whole lot of orange aromas, excuse me, but we are getting like some nice big notes like that, those smooth, bitter notes. Ooh, so that's really good. With the Chemex, it's so interesting how like just learning how to extract different flavors because on the pour over we're getting such strong orange spice notes that it's just driving the cup of coffee. But when we go over to the Chemex, the it's almost just like the French press where we're mainly getting those fig notes and then these orange spice just comes out very, very little. But then what's also interesting is when I tried the same coffee in the same brew method but over iced, it really brought out the orange flavor. So when we pour it over ice, we're really like accentuating the bright notes with the cold flavor of the coffee. And so that's how I'm able to like extract certain flavor notes out of the coffee. And so, as a hot coffee, the blonde Christmas, we're getting a lot more of those smooth, bitter fig notes, and not so much of the orange spice. But then, if I were to probably chill this and put it in the fridge, the orange notes would probably start to come out a little bit more because the fact that the chilled flavor, the natural effect of chilled water gives you like almost like a crisp feeling in your mouth, and then on top of the orange spice notes, it just enhances each other. And so it's just interesting how there's so many different ways to extract different flavors out of coffee, and the only way you can learn these different methods is just to learn and experiment and grow. And the only way you can learn and experiment and grow is to just keep experimenting and exploring new coffee. And so that is the Christmas Blonde, you guys. Thank you guys for joining me on this coffee journey that I've gone through so far. We've tried so many coffees on this channel. We've got so many more coffees to go. If you guys enjoyed this coffee tasting, hit the subscribe and like button. It really helps this channel grow and helps me continue to purchase more coffees to try and keep this channel and keep the content rolling out. There has been a little bit of a gap, but I've been super busy, and then with the lack of content for coffees to try, but I have building up different types of coffees for you guys so that we can learn and explore new coffees. So please hit that like and subscribe button. It really helps this channel out. And then if you like this video, hit the video link above that will bring you to another coffee tasting, and the link below is a list of videos that YouTube thinks that you might like. Thank you guys, and have a great night.